What's up YouTube? It's your boy FlyGB and I am back with another video. Today's video I'm going to be talking to you about how to become an airline pilot. You know, the flight schedule and the work intensity is tough when you literally change hotel rooms and countries in the middle of the introduction of your video, man. It's not easy, man. Late nights, sleep deprivation, flights, video editing, but for you, I'm ready to do anything. Welcome to How to Become an Airline Pilot, Part 3. Before we get into this video, I got 3 things I gotta tell you. First, make sure you watch Part 1 and Part 2 because these videos of how to become an airline pilot are sequentially ordered in the way that the value of the information is given. Part 1 is about a certain subject that leads into Part 2, which then leads into Part 3, which is today's episode. Secondly, I want you guys to let me know before the video starts in the comment section down below, what is your favorite aircraft and why? Make sure you like the video, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. And last but not least, I want to give a big shout out to all of my subscribers all the way down in St. Vincent. If you don't know, there was a big volcanic eruption in St. Vincent, and I just want to tell you guys that you got all my prayers, my thoughts, support. I encourage you guys. I really hope this situation gets better very, very soon, and we haven't forgotten about you guys. And thank you very much for being a supporter of the channel. I really appreciate that, and I wish you once again the best. Now, without further ado, let's get into this video. FlyJ forever, man. In part 1, we talked about the best way of funding flight school depending on your situation. We talked about the theory, we talked about the practice, the actual flying, and just the way it would go in general. In part 2, we talked about how to ace the selection process itself, and I detailed for you every single exam that you could expect to get, especially if you're an EASA oriented flight school student. Now in part 3 today, we will talk about the best and most surefire way for you to ace and maximize the marks that you will get on your ATPL exams. Now for those of you who don't know, most of my videos are mainly aimed at EASA flight school students. It still works, okay? But it's just gonna be, you know, based from my own experience. And as you know, if you follow me on Instagram, you know which school I've graduated from. I went to a CAA UK EASA flight school. I ended flight school with a 91.5% average, and this is not a humble brag. It is just a fact to let you know that what I'm about to tell you in this video is pure facts that will help you to get better and to definitely nail it when you get into flight school. Because what I want to with this video is to take all of the experience and all of the mistakes that I made and how I could have been better and transmit it to you via this video to make sure that you maximize everything that you can get, have the highest marks you can get so you can get a job faster, and you can get all the recommendations you need to get straight out of flight school. Now, to make sure that I'm respectful of your time and to make sure that this video goes smoothly and to the point, because there's a lot of information I don't want it to drag on for too long, I came in with my notes, and so I'm going to be referring to them to tell you everything that I'm going to talk about today. So first things first, there are 14 EASA ATPL subjects: air law, aircraft general knowledge, instruments, meteorology, operational procedures, flight planning, mass and balance, aircraft performance, general navigation, human performance, principles of flight, radio navigation, VFR Communications, and finally IFR Communications. What you need to understand is that to be able to understand and to be able to know how to approach these subjects, you need to have a study method. And for that particular reason, I came up with 3 categories, and I'm going to explain to you how these categories work. Each category basically represents a study method that you need to apply to each of these subjects to basically make it the most efficient when you get to that ATPL exam stage. Category 1, comprehension and calculation based subjects. Category 2, knowledge and information based subject. And category 3, the last one, is bankable and short subjects. Now let's get into what each of these categories represent and how you need to prepare for these ones. So category 1, in comprehension and calculation based subjects, we have all of the subjects that will require you to read and understand the subject matter to be able to solve problems, okay, using calculations and rules of thumbs. So in other words, basically, you have no other choice than to read the explanations that are given to you in the textbook. Now, understand the method to solve these problems using the correct formula, and then repeat. It's all about repetition with these subjects because it's a lot of logic and it's a lot of just, you know, learning that will be done through applying everything that you read, right? So it'll be every subject that has to do with, for example, calculations and solving problems most of the times, right? So you will need to complete every single exercise in the textbook and all the practice worksheets given to you during class. So if that's done, you can have no surprises. That's number one. And number two, you can be confident that you'll have seen all types of variations of all the exercises that are going to be given to you. Basically, whether you're in an EASA exam, whether you're in a class exam, or whatever stage you're in. It's all about just like going over all the content, you know, understanding the logic behind it, and going for all the exercises that are available to you so that you can have no surprises. Put all of the chances on your side and don't just like do a few ones. You want to make sure that you ace this because you want to get the best airline job you can get straight out of flight school. So you're gonna study, okay? You're gonna make sure you understand the subject matter, but you're also gonna make sure you've seen everything that you've had access to, okay? So I'll say it one more time, okay? The key word for every subject in this category is repetition. And remember that for this particular category, working with other people can be very beneficial to understand the problems from every single perspective, okay? That's a good bonus to have. Now let's talk about the subjects that are in this category. You have meteorology, flight planning, mass and balance, aircraft performance, general navigation, and principles of flight. Category 2, knowledge and information-based subjects. Now, these are all the subjects that include a lot of textual information, okay? Values, key elements that you need to memorize. So it's going to be a lot of memorization and learning by heart, right? So the textbooks of these subjects will be full of text, images, and important things that you need to know by heart. Like I just said, I found that the best way to crush these subjects was by making summary sheets of every single chapter that you came across, okay? And the reason for that is because a summary sheet will only include the essential information that you will need, okay, in every single chapter. That way, when you study for the EASA exam, you will not need to open your textbook at all, because what we're trying to do here, you know, is to limit the amount of information you need to come back to when you're actually studying for the EASA exam. You don't want to be coming back to the EASA exam and then opening and looking for information in all of your notebooks, textbooks, worksheets, etc. You want to have a centralized piece of information for that particular subject and just be able to refer to it by chapter. That is the best, I promise you, that's the best thing you can ever do to like make it a lot easier for you. Because it's not just about the learning, it's also about how quickly can you access this information. It is of the utmost importance that you make these summary sheets thoroughly and include all of the necessary information to avoid returning to the textbook during EASA exam preparation. Just like we just said, dealing with summary sheets will make you faster and more to the point than looking for information in a book, and has been proven that having access to too much information makes you slower and lowers your motivation to learn. Keep it simple, okay? I do not recommend working with other people when it comes to these types of subjects, and I'll explain why. Basically, it's because these knowledge-based subjects require you to memorize information, and no one else but you can do that for you. However, like when it comes to memorizing things and reading a lot of textual information, working with other people will not benefit you, because you will be sharing knowledge that you haven't read and you do not understand what really is important to retain from that information. And so you will be fooled into thinking that you know and you master the subject when you don't. It's just the other person explaining to you because they understand, but you don't. So you need to memorize, like you cannot, there's no way of skipping that memorization process. You need to go through the material. You need to sit down, make your summary sheet, make it in bullet points, highlight everything that is important, and memorize it through sitting down and actually like playing it back in your head, and by doing exercises which actually ask you questions where you'll be putting the accurate information, and that way it will be solidified in your brain. Now, the exception when it comes to working with other people is that when you are done with a particular chapter, basically you can test and quiz each other to assimilate what you've worked on by yourself. And that makes a lot of sense, because when you actually do have the knowledge inside of your head right now, you've memorized it already, it is a good practice to quiz each other with your friends, because it will help you, you know, just have a way of expressing these memories that you already like have formed. Basically, if I ask you a question of something that you already learned, you having to like look for that information inside of your brain and saying it out loud will validate that information and, you know, reinforce that knowledge, so that when you actually in front of the computer screen during the EASA exam at the end of, ground school, you have no hesitation. Whereas if you never practice something that you've learned before, it gets harder and harder for these pathways to actually like connect quickly to that information. So you want to be as snappy as possible, you want to be as quick as possible. And how is that done? Through quizzing each other, quizzing yourself, going through exercises and doing worksheets as much as possible. However, like I said, this can only be done after you have memorized the material that needs to be memorized. So my personal method for this, and how it became a lot easier for me to do this through flight school, was me and one of my classmates, which is a friend of mine. We basically did summary sheets one after the other. So basically what would happen is, for example, chapter 1, I did the summary sheet. Chapter 2, he did the summary sheet. Chapter 3, I did the summary sheet. Chapter 4, and so on and so forth. So basically it reduces the workload for both of us, and we basically work with each other and understand how he sees the thing, because obviously if I let him do it, it's because I trust him, but also in a way it helps me because having his worksheets makes me have a different perspective, but at the same time that other perspective still contains all of the key elements that I need to succeed. So we just were so much more efficient doing it that way than just doing it individually, because he agreed with the way I tackled it with summary sheets. So he agreed to like do the same thing with me, and it was just beneficial for the both of us. We ended up acing that with no problem whatsoever. Now let's talk about the subjects that are regrouped in this category right now. In this category of knowledge and information based subjects, we have air law, aircraft general knowledge, instruments, human performance, radio navigation, and operational procedures. However, I did not find it necessary to make summary sheets for any aircraft general knowledge subjects, as it will be pretty straightforward. Like, to me, it was pretty straightforward when it came to aircraft general knowledge. Aircraft general knowledge basically regroups 3 subjects, which are electrics, airframes and systems, and engines. If you have good notes from class, I personally do not feel like it's necessary to make summary sheets for aircraft general knowledge subjects. Also, I did not do any summary sheets for air law as well, because there's simply way too much information for you to be able to read everything and efficiently put it in a summary sheet, because there's too much information that you need to know. So air law is the exception that confirms the rule in my book, where it will be that type of subject where you will need to memorize through practice. And I encourage you for this one to use the bank as much as possible, use the worksheets as much as possible, and use the textbook as much as possible, as they will provide you with questions at the very end of each chapter. So if you can do that, you'll be golden. If you feel like you have the time and you are able to make summary sheets, definitely do so. However, don't beat yourself over it if you can't do it, because there's a lot of information in air law. A lot of it doesn't need to be memorized. Only the key essential points need to be memorized. And how will you know which is important? It's by going through the questions and seeing what type of questions are asked. When you have seen that, you can quickly see, okay, I need to remember this, I need to remember this, I need to remember that, and you'll have, your notebook with the notes that you've taken from class. You'll be able to highlight what you need to remember and come back to that when time asks for it. Okay, so that's my advice on this one particularly. Last category, bankable and short subjects, is going to be the quickest category. It's literally, as the name says, it's bankable and short subjects. Okay, we have short subjects that you can cover exclusively through the bank. Okay, it is easier than like a lot of the rest of the subjects, and that is the reason why it only includes 2 subjects, IFR Communications and VFR Communications. Okay, you most likely won't need to work with other people to do that, because it's very quick to go through the whole bank. And so it is what it is. You can if you want, but you don't need to, and you probably won't want to be honest. It's really quick. Alright guys, I have removed my suit to maximize the penetration pause of the information that I'm about to give you inside of your brains. Okay, you ready for this? Let's get into it. Let's get serious. All right, let's talk about organizing your schedule and the study methods that I have for you to maximize your results on the EASA. Okay, now what you need to understand is, after we've just covered how you need to approach every single individual subject based on categories, now let me give you the secrets for organizing your study schedule, okay, and the best study method according to me, of course, by my experience. During ground school, you will need to pass PTs. These stands for progress tests Each subject has a progress test. And then towards the end of ground school, you'll have to pass mocks. These mocks are exams that are made by the school basically to track your progress and fitness to sit the EASA official exams. You need to pass these exams in order to move on to EASAs. So here's a study method I established. Use it or take it and just implement it in what you already do and just make it up to your own sauce. You don't have to do exactly like me, but I want to give you my guidelines so that you're able to have a better clarity for the way you do your own. Okay, you can implement these. So basically, I would finish ground school at 5 p.m., give myself 1 hour to get back to my room, lay down on my bed, meditate, sleep, whatever I wanted to do. And then at 6, I'd start getting ready to go to the cafeteria, hit the cafeteria by 6:15 to eat, get some food, get back to my room at 6:45, okay, 6:45, 7. And then at 7 p.m., boom, it's time to start my night. I'm going to be studying basically until going to bed. Essentially, that's what I'm going to be doing. So rule number 1, you should aim to do at least 2 subjects every single day. That should be your goal. Now let's talk about the protocol itself, okay? Part 2, boom. Always start with a category 1 subject. Category 1 subjects, in my eyes, are the most important subjects when it comes to flight school because they are the ones that require understanding, logic, and are based on calculation and actual brain power and not just memorization. So these are the ones that you should always prioritize when you start your study sessions, when you're fresh and when your mind is actually able to go get the information that you need to be able to solve these problems and learn new things. Okay, so what you would do with these category 1 subjects, you have 2 possibilities for that study session for your first category 1 subject. Either you pick one that you had that day in class, okay, that was dense and maybe complicated enough for you to feel like it is important for you to review it directly that night, okay? Or second possibility is you choose a category 1 subject still, but that you will have the next day. So basically what you will do is being proactive and prepare for that class and maximize basically the value that you will have from that class, okay? So what you will do for that is go over the textbook and your notes for anything that wasn't completely clear for you in the last session, for example, and then do every exercise that is available to you on that chapter, on the textbook, and the worksheet that was given to you that day, if any, okay? I then recommend, after you're done with that, following up with a category 2 subject, and you will do summary sheet basically when it comes to category 2 subjects. Every single day when you do a category 2 subject, which you should do every day, category 1 and category 2 at least, you should be making the summary sheet of a chapter that you did that day, or like we said before, you can just prepare the class that is going to happen the next day. However, I do not recommend you do a summary sheet of a class that you've not yet done, if that makes sense. You can read over it to understand it already, okay? But the summary sheet should always be done after the class because you've had time to digest not only your own understanding of the thing through reading, but also through having the instructor explain it to you, so you have more of a matured way of seeing it, if that makes sense, with the opinion of somebody who actually knows what he's talking about. For example, let's say today I have radio navigation and tomorrow I know I have engines, and for example, for the current period of time, I feel like engines is more complicated than radio navigation. I'm not going to spend time working on radio nav when I know I can, maybe study that tomorrow because it's something that I understand, where, for example, engines is tomorrow. I want to be ready for that session and not fall behind. So I'm going to double down on engines tonight, make sure I get that unlocked, and then I can move on to the regular program schedule onwards for the rest of the week. Okay, now remember, falling behind is exponential every time you don't catch up, so make sure you play smart. Okay, now if you're feeling well rested, the best solution is to do all of what I just said instead of just choosing. So basically what that means is you will do both the subject that you did that day when it comes to category 1 subject and the one that is coming tomorrow, and the same thing for category 2. You will do a summary sheet of what you did that day and you will prepare the class that you have the next day. Don't put it out for the next day if you feel like you can do it today. Don't procrastinate. In flight school, if you want to be efficient, everything you can do that day, try to do it, unless you're tired, because it's very important to get as much sleep as you can, but don't overdo it as well. It's better sometimes to have a little rush and use that weekend to just recoup. Let's talk about Friday. Do not, I repeat, do not study on Friday. I only broke this rule 2 or I think maybe 3 times in my whole time in flight school, and I don't even remember why, to be honest. Probably because I had like an exam preparation, so I had to like break it because I really wanted to make sure I could, you know, double down on the study and ace that exam, or maybe I felt like I didn't have enough time or something like that. But anyway, my point is, you leave Friday completely out of the equation. Why? Because Friday is the best trade-off day that you will ever have in your week, and let me explain to you why. Okay, Friday is a weekday, and so you'll be resting after you're done with a day of class. So you will not be wasting a full day, like for example Saturday or Sunday, completely like not doing anything, because that's the full day. It's just the rest of your day, you know. Whereas usually during the week you would take that time to study. Right now you're just using the rest of your day to rest and to recuperate from like all of the accumulated fatigue and sleep deprivation from the week. Maybe if you were rushing and trying to just like keep up with all of the studying and, you know, the new content of every single subject, right? So you can sleep, you can relax, you can go out, just do other things, disconnect, so you can come back stronger for that weekend. All right, so no days off mentality. Please get yourself, like, rid yourself of that mentality. No days off mentality is the quickest, most surefire way, okay, to like just burn out completely and sabotage yourself. Do not do that. Take one day off during the week to rest, and that day should be Friday because it is the least amount of time that you get. Okay, if you have done everything that you need to do, Sunday is the second day that you can use to rest, but only if you have accomplished all of your weekly goals by Saturday. If by the end of Saturday you have not completed all the goals that you had for that week, Sunday is going to be Saturday light. Saturday is what I call equalization day. Okay, equalization day because Saturday is the day that you will use to offset and account for every single subject during the week that you did not have time to catch up on. Okay, so you'll wake up, brush your teeth, shower, okay, and then you will sit down to work. All right, so you sit down, and I'm not gonna say you don't get up until you're done, but it's as close as it gets. You're gonna get up, take breaks, go eat something, go get some drinks, just like, you know, disconnect from time to time, you know, take a little break. It's healthy, but you're going to sit down and make sure you offset every single thing that you didn't manage to do during the week. You're going to be doing that on Saturday. Your goal by Saturday, by the end of Saturday night, should be, okay, now I know that on Monday I'll be ready for any new subject because I will be up to date with every single thing, and I will have done every single summary sheet that I need to do for all the category 2 subjects that have been covered up to that point. Now if you don't manage to do that, that's what Sunday is for. Sunday is Saturday light. You will just be completing and just like, you know, polishing everything that you've been doing on Saturday to make sure that you're ready by Monday. Okay, Sunday should not be much of a rush day. Like maybe like half of the day maximum should be spent studying just to finish everything you didn't have time to finish, unless exam is coming up, of course. And that's pretty much what it is. Now keep in mind, I didn't talk about category 3 subjects at all, okay? Because VFR and IFR Communications will only be given to you at the very end of flight school because these subjects are very short. So if you are, for example, in a flight school where ground school is divided into 2 parts, like for example, first 5 months, then the last 2 months, well, VFR and IFR comes will be given to you during that second phase of ground school, and even then it will just be at the very last half, not even at the beginning, because it's very, very short and just like couple or 3 sessions you'll be done with the whole subject. It will be more about your own repetition and making sure to tackle that on your own time in the bank and understanding that for yourself. When you're done with PTs and mocks, you'll be given time to prepare for the EASA ATPL exams. Okay, if you apply the study method that I just gave you just now, okay, you will have completed all textbooks, all school worksheets, and have summary sheets ready for every single chapter of relevant category 2 subjects, because you will only need basically to focus now on the bank. And that's the best thing about it, because you don't have to worry about the rest. Now, if you watch my video called 5 Things I Wish I Knew as a Student Pilot, then you know that I recommend sticking mainly with one bank. Okay, and I initially recommended Bristol Ground School Bank because of its accuracy in regards to like the questions that are actually in the EASA exams themselves, because that's what I used, and at the time that's what was the most up to date with the actual exams. However, it was brought to my attention by one of my subscribers in the comments of that video that ATPL questions is a great question bank also. So ATPL questions, definitely take that into account when you choose which question bank you want to focus on mainly. And yeah, when it comes to question banks, I'm going to be straight up with you. You need to complete every single subject at least once. Like, that is a minimum. Like a minimum. You need to complete at least every single subject once. At least. Okay? Your goal should be to complete every category 1 subject at least once. You need to do every category 2 subjects at least twice, at the very least. In the category 3 subjects, my friend, as many times as you can, because it's so short, you can literally commit the questions to memory almost. Now, PS, even though I encourage you to focus on the bank after PTs and mocks, it does not mean you cannot use it as a study tool during ground school also, okay? However, I do not recommend you using it as your main way of studying, and I've talked about that in my 5 things I wish I knew as a student pilot. Learning through the bank is not really learning. It's just getting used to questions, you know, and passing through recognizing them. You can fool yourself into thinking you understand something when you don't actually understand anything, because you're just used to repetition. The bank is the quickest way to like using the path of least resistance by just clicking, going over it, and memorizing. And yes, maybe you'll pass the EASA exams, probably you will, but it's not just about EASAs, it's about your entire career, because this knowledge will be used in your career as well. And you want the basics, you want the foundations to be solid. You don't want it to be shaky because you wanted to like get it done easier through banks. Save the banks for later. Save the bank for when you're studying for the actual EASA exams. You have time. Now guys, let's move on to the last part of the video, tips for the actual exams themselves when you're sitting inside the exam room. Number 1, do not study or bank the morning of the exam. And the reason why I say this is because you will confuse yourself and you will increase doubts and stress levels before the exam, and it might not play in your favor, okay? Number 2, do not rush the exam. It is not a race. In every exam, you will see somebody in your class who will rush to let everyone know in the class that they're smarter than everybody else, they're faster than everybody else. They will drop their pen like this loudly. They will get up and push their chair back like, bro, like, you know, they'll take loud steps outside because they want everybody to know this guy finished in 2 minutes and 47 seconds. Cool. Don't do that. Please, don't do that. Take your time to finish the exam. You reread every question to make sure you haven't clicked any wrong answer by accident, for example. And remember, EASA exams are computerized, so it is possible to misclick, so make sure you check for that as well, okay? Forget glory, focus on success. I'll say that again. Forget glory, focus on success. How people view you in the exam room is useless if you don't have the passing mark, my friend. Like, stop the cap. We need to stop this cap. I don't understand where this culture comes from. Stop the cap. And I'm saying this because I've seen it. Stop the cap. Like, you got these guys, bro. Like, you get out of the exam room after 20 minutes, but you're the only one who's failed the test. Next, skip questions you're not sure about. Do not dwell. And this is something I've always struggled with because I'm really like hard-headed. I really want to like make sure I get everything done before I move on to the next questions. But sometimes it will play against you if you're really stubborn like that, because you're wasting precious time, okay? Just prioritize time over the hope of getting 100%. Prioritize time over the hope of getting 1%. That is a very important phrase. Prioritize time over the hope of getting 100%. It's better to get 97%, okay, than to get 85% because you didn't have time to finish the exam and 10 questions are left unanswered. You understand what I'm saying? So that will make it more likely for you to finish the exam ahead of time, and it will allow you to come back later to the question that you didn't have time to do before, and you'll be able to like use all of that time and be stress-free when you actually like try to think to find that answer, okay? So make sure you take the most likely answer if you don't end up finding anything, because don't leave the question blank at the end of the exam just because time is running out. Just click the most likely answer. At least you'll have that done, and even if you're tight on time, you maximize your chances. win-win situation for you. Last but definitely not least, guys, please, if you are a member of the Fly JV crew, if you like my channel, if you want to become a good airline pilot in the future, if you are passionate about what you do, please do not attempt to cheat. Do not attempt to cheat. Understand that everyone in the room has different questions. Like in EASA exams, it's computerized for a reason. The questions are randomly generated to just amount to a certain number of questions, of course, for that exam. No one has the same questions. Stop copying people and stop trying to memorize like question references from like Bristol, Bank, or AV exam. That's like, if you're trying to do this, just leave the school. You're wasting your money or your parents' money or the bank's money. Like, don't do that, please. The bottom line is, just don't cheat, okay? Every single person that I know in flight school that attempted to cheat ended up paying the price. I'm not gonna go into more details than that, but it's more than one person. Guys, thank you so much for watching the video, okay? A lot of people think being a pilot is all about, flying, but that is just so very wrong, okay? There's a great amount of knowledge that comes into just flight school itself, just the job itself. There's so much theoretical knowledge that you need to understand to be safe as a pilot. And so I believe for me it was important to just like give you this information to make sure that you can actually ace your EASA ATPL exams when it comes to the theoretical part of the whole thing. So I hope this video was useful for you. There's a great amount of knowledge, like I said, that goes behind it, and you have to understand everything for your own sake, for your safety, and for the safety of your future passengers when you're going to be an airline pilot. Okay, flying and theory are two essential pieces of the puzzle. Okay, like it fits and it cannot be separated. Like you can't be a full pilot with just one piece of the puzzle. You need both. Okay, thank you very much for watching again. Please let me know in the comment section, what did you think was the most helpful part of the video? Leave a timestamp. Let me know if you have anything to add or any questions to ask me. Don't forget to leave that comment in the comment section down below. I really want to see what you found the most helpful. And guys, as you know, the sky is not the limit. The sky is home. Be limitless.